Hi, I'm Cristela Carrizales, and you're listening to the Oklahoma On Stage podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Oklahoma On Stage podcast. I'm Tim. I'm your host. Today, we are talking with an artist who has mastered the rare magic of turning pain into punchlines and lived experience into connection. She's an actress, singer, comedian, storyteller, keynote speaker, and facilitator, a creative force whose work spans lyric theater, the Pollard, Southern Plains Productions, Ghost Light Theater Club, and Theater Crude Fringe Festival. She's a former artistic director of Oklahoma City Improv and the founder of the City Cabaret, OKC, and the creator of Begin Again Badge, her autobiographical one-woman show blending comedy, vulnerability, and the messy, beautiful business of rebuilding your life. Whether she's on stage, leading a workshop, or speaking to a room full of people about new beginnings, Cristela brings authenticity, irreverence, and razor-sharp wit. And today, we get to dive into the history behind all of it. Oklahoma On Stage family, please join me in welcoming Cristela Carrizales to the podcast. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Hopefully I said that right.
Yes, Cristela Carrizales.
I always worry about how I'm saying
It's very long and ethnic, so I understand. It's not a problem.
So this is kind of the best way to do this. We do with everybody's, like I always say, the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started in theater?
So my beginning in theater, I actually started singing first. So there is this little picture of me, probably at like 3 years old, standing in front of one of those old 70s like consoles that have like the television and this Wi-Fi and all that. And I am singing into a jump rope and using it as a microphone. Exactly.
I have the same picture.
Exactly, like you do. And so that's actually music is where I started. And then as the music continued to grow, then I got introduced to theater in the latter part of my elementary, and then in middle school. And then when I got into theater, we finally had a program so that I could go and audition for. So I started doing that and combining that with the singing that I had been doing since, middle school. And then I decided that was my true love. And I decided I was going to go become a theater major. I had to break the news to my voice teacher, who then cried in one of my voice lessons and said, "You're just throwing away your talent." And I just was like, okay, but it was fun. But that's how I kind of got started in theater, was just around the corner from the art form that I first fell in love with.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to Sooner Theater, who has graciously opened the doors for us to do this interview today.
What a beautiful theater.
Thank you to them. So you're originally from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
You got a bachelor's in theater from Texas Wesleyan University.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Again, you started out singing, you've done acting. Where did the comedy come into it?
The comedy happened when we moved to Oklahoma. So I had married my now ex-husband and we moved to the UK. And so when we were in the UK, we lived there for 4 years. And when it was time to move again, and we didn't get to stay overseas, we were like, okay, where are we going to be? And I said, well, we've been overseas for 4 years. Why don't we try to be closer to our families? We chose Arkansas and Oklahoma. Boom, Oklahoma City in 5 minutes. We get here, and I had not auditioned for anything in a very long time. So I started doing that. But what I found was that I kept getting pigeonholed. I kept it's one of those things, I was a larger woman. I weighed well over 200 pounds. And I would go and audition, but I would never get like the ability to even audition for the love interest, right?
Mm.
Because I was too big to be the love interest. And I'm like, yo, I'm married. I've been the love interest in my own life, you know? So I got really tired. And a coworker, uh, I was hanging out with her and her boyfriend was an improviser. And I was just, as one does, smarting off and being me. And he told her, she's really funny. She should do improv. And I thought, no, I'm a scripted actor. I cannot make up words as I go along, you know. Uh, and then I think it was just coming out of a really disappointing audition where I had auditioned for the lead multiple times and then I didn't get it. And I didn't get it for the same reasons that I don't get parts. And I thought, you know what? I'm tired of being pigeonholed. I want to control my own destiny. And I went back to my friend's boyfriend and said, how do I get started? And the first improv that I ever did was at the very first Improv Festival, Oklahoma, which was, I don't even know what year it was, maybe 2009, maybe. It was my first toe in. I took some workshops. I had never done improv before. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally was throwing spaghetti at a wall. And initially, when you start improv and you like it, you start to fall in love with it. I like to say there's like a pathway, you know. So your first few months, everything is new and it's wonderful and you're in love. It's like, you know, new love. Oh, this is the best art form ever. And then you get to about the between 8 and 10 months in, right? And you know you want to be a performer. Like you're maybe in level 2, maybe going to level 3 class. And so now you're like, oh, I know where I want to be. I want to be like those performers, right? But now you know how not good you really are, right? Because the newness is worn off, right? So you have to then get over that hump and then arrive at, oh, I put the work in. I'm in, you know, troops and things like that. So when I started down this path, I thought, you know, I'm a scripted actor. I'm gonna just try it. And I kept going, and I kind of was in private tutorials with them. You know, I wasn't taking classes. I was just going to rehearsals, and they were teaching me the foundations and things like that. So I just found it so freeing, you know, to be able to walk onto a stage with nothing at all, and just in that moment make up a world that you gifted me wonderful things and I got to gift myself. So I got to walk out on stage and be the love interest, or I got to walk out on stage and be the awkward person who just me walking out by myself, just being me more than likely. But, or I get to go out and be a scissor tail, you know, like it just freed me up. So when I started doing improv, that was it. Like I started really going down that hole and then it took up a big part of my life. And I was great for it. I loved it, you know, because I got to control the art form and how I grew and it freed me of other people's versions of what I should look like and how I should be in my own art. You know, that's what I feel like sometimes we're missing in theater is somebody else is always dictating to the actor what they should be. Or I'm here saying, no, 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 no. The tide has turned. We get to dictate who we are in our own art.
Yeah, that's good. One of the things that I've always strived to do as a director is to be as collaborative as I possibly can.
Absolutely.
You know, yes, I have a vision, but that doesn't mean that that's the end all of the show.
Right.
You know, everybody's bringing a piece to the table. Let them put that piece on the table.
You say that and it's just exactly the same in improv. So I have a friend named Tara DeFrancisco, and she started a retreat called the Improv Retreat. She was in the hospital and things were not good, but she had this idea to start this community-based improv retreat where people went and learned together from some really great improvisers. And one of the things she says in improv training, right? So the whole yes to your idea, and here's my contribution, right? And so we are learning to give and take and give and take. And her big thing is you are building a cathedral, but your job is to bring a brick to build the cathedral. You're not bringing the cathedral. You bring a brick and they bring a brick and somebody else brings a brick, and together with your bricks, you're building. And I love that visual for improv because it's absolutely true. You never want that one person who just dominates the whole thing. And you're like, you're so-and-so and you're Mickey Mouse and we're on a bridge to Terabithia, right? That person is like, okay, well, just tell me who I am, right? But when we can go in and I'm, hey, Mickey Mouse, okay, well, Donald Duck, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Then we start truly collaborating and building. Improv literally changed the way I moved through the world when the ideology and the methodology of how we go out on stage and how we look at the world when we're on stage, well, how we look at each other when we're on stage, right? If I'm looking at you for every beautiful thing that you can give me on stage and I have to build from that, I am actively looking for everything good in you as opposed to everything that is bad about you,
Right.
which is just the opposite of what we do out on the street.
Sure.
So if I can look and take that ideology that I'm looking at you for everything wonderful that you can give me and I can take it to the street and just give that to somebody else or my coworker or something, that is mind-changing, life-changing way and reframing of viewing the world. And so that's what I love about the art form. I love its collaborative nature, but I also love how it can retrain your metacognition. Like you can start to look at the world in a different way.
Yeah. Oh, that we could do that.
We can. I think that's it. I think people think, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
If we couldn't change our ways, I would still be an alcoholic.
True.
An active alcoholic. I will always be an alcoholic, but I'm in recovery. I'm a recovering alcoholic. But I would, if I didn't believe that people could change at their core, then I would still be active in my recovery. No, I would be dead. That's where I would be. I would not be here. I would be dead. So this idea that we're dug in is, I just don't buy it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think any of us are, as the old saying goes, set in our ways.
No, not at all. I think we're lazy. Yeah. I mean, that's the truth.
Well, we live in an instant gratification culture.
Oh gosh. I mean, I do professional development through the lens of improv comedy. And one of the things I talk about is human connection, that we are currently living in an age where we are more socially connected. She's putting her fingers in the air and doing air quotes.
Exactly.
Than we ever have been in the history of, since we became this version of the species, right? And yet we are lonelier than we have ever been before because we are replacing human contact for technology.
Yep. Yeah, I think they should so call it anti-social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
I think COVID made us so attached to social media,
right,
that now we don't know how to connect socially.
Precisely. I absolutely will see people sitting around a table at a restaurant looking at their phones and seeing that they are on Facebook or Instagram or something, checking their likes instead of talking to the people at the table, and especially with teenagers. I work at a certain crimson-dipped institution that is in the area of the Suna Theater. And people can get jaded in all sorts of ways, right? And I have been just as jaded as anybody else on a rough day. These whippersnappers, get off my South Oval, right? We had to, and people say, these kids have to, they enroll online and they didn't have to stand in line and they didn't have to do that. And yeah, you know what? They didn't have to stand in line, but do you not remember what we learned standing in that line? We learned community. We learned empathy. Can you hold my place in line while I go to the restroom? We learned how to pivot on a dime. We learned how to be flexible in a moment. The things we learned from one another standing in the line, if I could undo, I would make all of them stand in the line again because they're learning from each other. I think we have yet to know what the long-term true effects of COVID are. But I think that if we continue down the road that we're headed, that we are just, whatever problems exist, we're going to exacerbate them, And it's really funny because I think working at that institution has kept me very spiritually young, I'm going to say. And I had an intern, wonderful young woman this past spring. And I said, well, I'm trying to get to know her. Like, what are you into? Like, what are the young people doing nowadays? She's
What's
like,
hip?
yeah, exactly. Engage me because I'm real old. I told everybody, I finally understand why our grandparents just let the VCR just flash 12 o'clock. It's like,
Why mess with it?
exactly. Could I learn TikTok? Yes. Do I want to learn TikTok? Meh. So, so I'm saying, what are you into? Like, what's the thing? And she goes, oh my gosh, there's this thing that I really love and I can't wait. I'm going to order it. It's called film photography. Exactly. If you listeners, our friend here just had like a record player face moment.
You hear that little crash.
Yeah, you should totally edit that in.
Yeah.
I have the exact same moment, but it gets better.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, you're saying film photography because I want to make sure that the definition hasn't changed in 30 years. So I said, are you talking about like film? And she goes, yeah. You take this cartridge and you line it up with these little notches in there, and then you close it. And then she goes, yeah. And I'm just looking at her, and she is teaching me. This is a teaching moment. This young, beautiful 21-year-old woman who is teaching me this moment. And she goes, and then, oh my gosh. And you can see it, the delight, her whole body just lights up. And she goes, and then you wind it and it goes, and it makes this like, and I said, the satisfying, and it was like this ASMR kind of like, and she was like, yeah, she got so excited. And I was like, and I go, are you prepared to wait 3 hours to 2 weeks to be able to afford to get your pictures out? Because listeners, you did it. You dropped off your film, and then you got it a month later when payday hit.
And now it costs more because fewer places actually do that.
Exactly. So I said, are you willing to wait that long? And she's like, yeah. And I thought, what is happening?
But she doesn't have to because they have Polaroids again now.
And that are like twice, that were as expensive now as they were then. That's why I never had a Polaroid camera. And the film quality is terrible.
Exactly.
But I think that in today's society, we have manufactured like expectation and waiting out of the equation.
Yeah.
And I think that these kids, we've given them too much. We've given them too much instantaneousness. We have forgotten that we grew up in an analog age. I messed up a lot and there's no recorded evidence of it all, right? Technology is not the solution. Community aided with technology is the solution.
Yeah, technology should be a tool.
Absolutely.
It should not be a replacement.
Right. We should be getting AI to synthesize notes and send emails while we go and write poetry and paint and create and do all of the things that we were meant to do as humans.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. Listen to that, people. That right there will preach, as they say. So, kind of bringing all that back
to so much. I just feel like, I'll step down for a minute.
Yeah, really. We could go off on that for days. What made you first fall in love with the idea of telling personal stories?
So, honestly, probably because of my type. My first true solo show was in 2010 at Ghostlight Theater Club. I wrote a musical or cabaret, I think my second cabaret that I produced, called Short, Round, and Brown, One Woman Plus. And it was a 2-act, one-woman show, but I had people who sang with me. And the premise of the show is that I was singing all musical numbers from shows that I was never, as character from shows that I was never going to get cast in because I was either too short and or too round and or too brown. And then the One Woman Plus was that I had some friends who came and sang with me. So the whole first act was just me living my best life, singing songs, characters that it's never going to happen, right? And I used it off my own life because it was very funny and I wanted to do that. The second act was very autobiographical and it talked about my love story and how I never really thought anybody was going to fall in love with me. And the reason I tell autobiographical stories is because people look at me and go, you can't be the love interest because you're too fat. And I'm like, well, hold on a second, but I'm married. And then somebody goes, oh, you can't play that character. You can't play the principal because you're too brown. And you're like, well, hold on a second. I've taught middle school and I have a college degree and I work at an institution. Oh, no, you have to be this because you look a certain way. And you're like, hold on a second. Hold on. You don't understand me. You have an idea of who I am. No, 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 no. Let me set you straight. So this idea of like telling my story to help you understand not only me, but the people around me. Like I'm a Latina, but I'm a no sabo kid, meaning I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I'm seventh, eighth, I don't even know how many generations a United States citizen. We didn't cross the border. The border crossed us. My family lived in Mexico and then they lived in Texas. You know what I mean? It was like, that's how it worked. And my culture, my specific Mexican American no sabo is one of the few slices of my culture where I am gate kept from my own culture by Caucasians and by Latinos, right? Caucasians have an idea that if I'm Latina, I'm supposed to be a certain way that measures up to their version of what Latinos and Latinas look like, right? Now, with the Mexicanos or the Latinos, that might be something like, oh, you think you're too good. You think you're one of them. No, I just was here, right? So I'm being gate kept from my own culture, which I'm like, hold on a second. I'm a brown person living in my culture. So this is a brown story. It just doesn't fit your stereotypes on either side. And I have a deep yearning because of my trauma background to be understood, right? I'm a CPTSD survivor. And that was the driving forces. If you are refusing to see me as I am, as a whole person, not your stereotype, not your caricature, not what you think a short, round, brown girl should look like and be like, by God, I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to do it by making you laugh, by singing songs to you, because I'm very subversive in how I do things. I'm going to completely disarm you first.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to bring it home. And that has always kind of been when I've worked through autobiographical stuff is to make sure that you're understanding. And with Begin Again Badge, it went way deeper because that piece for me has elevated beyond just being an autobiographical piece. For me, that piece, where I want it to be, is a conduit for other people's taking the step towards healing. Like that first step catalyst to somebody. That's my goal for the show now.
Nice. And thank you for that. So you talked about you went to the UK and then came back, ended up in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. The wind does come sleeping down the plane here. It does.
Yes. And so all of these different hats that we've talked about you doing part of, how did Oklahoma City become the center of your creative work? And how does it center in your work?
If you had told me 20 years ago, so I'm entering my 19th year in Oklahoma, if you had told me 20 years ago, Cristela, you are going to move to Oklahoma City, because mind you, I'm from Texas. So like, North Texas, I'm from North Texas. So more North Texas, we, kind of figure like, whatever. In fact, when I got the job here, I was asked by my family, well, who are you going to cheer for on Texas OU weekend? And I was like, well, I don't know about you, but my paycheck bleeds crimson. So Boomer Sooner, so if you had told me that, like, you're going to move to Oklahoma City and you are going to experience the most wonderful, beautiful, artistic community, they're going to absorb you. Not only they're going to take you in as one of theirs, they are going to propel you to heights that you did not know that you were capable of achieving on your own. I would have been like, Oklahoma City, right? But this community of artists has to be, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful communities of artists. And the way we interact, the way we give to one another. I'm a big believer that you bloom where you're planted. So I left graduate school. My goal was when I was in my 20s, I was going to graduate school. I was going to move to Chicago. Then I was going to move to New York. I was going to win a Tony, and then I was going to live happily ever after. That was the trajectory. And then I met someone and I left graduate school. And then I didn't do theater for years in the UK. I mean, I couldn't do, you think, oh, you're right there in London. It's not accessible. It's not even what it is here. Like, it's impossible to get in. So I just would watch. When I got to Oklahoma City, I just wanted to be able to do theater again. That was it. And so I remember Ghostlight Theater was my first back on stage. I remember the audition. We were living in an apartment we hadn't settled. I'd only been here 8 months. And I walked out of my apartment and I turned back and I walked back in. And my ex-husband was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I can't do it." And he goes, "You need to go do this. You need to go. Just go. Just go meet people." And I did. And then I got a call back and then I got cast, like right out of the gate. And the director at that time, with Ghostlight, he was like, I called around to everybody asking who you were, and nobody knew who you were. But you were so good in the audition, I went ahead and rolled the dice because I don't like to work with people I don't know. And then it started happening. Then my next show was the next one. And then boom, 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 it starts to roll. And then you start getting folded into the meringue of this amazing community. And I got people who are like, "You remember Painted Desert?" And I'm like, "Yo, dog, got here in 2007. That predated me." But the beautiful thing is that this community doesn't see me as, oh, infiltrator from 2007. They're looking at me as one of their own.
Yeah.
And over and over and over, I've seen that this community has done that. So for me, I'm incredibly grateful for Oklahoma City. And I have performed on stage in Chicago. And I have performed on stage in New York City. And I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, the applause sounds exactly the same. The laughter sounds exactly the same. And by God, Oklahoma needs the applause and needs the laughter more than Chicago and New York City right now, because they have other places they can get it. So for me, when I started doing art here and then I started producing and creating, I was like, no, let's elevate the landscape. Let's give these artists an opportunity to bring what they got, because it's phenomenal. And let's see where we can take it and what we can do with it. So yeah, I'm a big bloom where you're planted. My God, Oklahoma City, the ground is so fertile. I could have never gotten the cabaret up in Dallas. I could have never gotten the cabaret up in Chicago, New York. Oklahoma City was hungry for it. And there were people here who were hungry for it. And that made it happen. It didn't happen because I had a ton of money. I started, the City Cabaret OKC started with $200 of my dollars. And me calling up every single one of my talented friends and going, "Yo, dog, I got an idea. You with me?" And everybody said, "Yeah, let's go." And we did. And it was phenomenal. And they took my small idea, because there's a whole story there too. They took my small idea and blew it up. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to hear that part, but that's okay. I'll do it. Okay, cool.
So you got involved Oklahoma City. You've been involved with lyric theater, roles like Matilda, James the Giant Peach, Rocky Horror, Avenue Q at Pollard, Dance Nation with Southern Plains, Ghostlight doing Fat Pig and Title of Show, multiple shows at Theater Crude Fringe Festival. You've been the artistic director of OKC Improv, founder of City Cabaret, countless leadership workshops, communication workshops, creativity, vulnerability, all this stuff. I mean, you would think, this is like, no big deal. And everybody knows this person. And, this is like a headliner everywhere she goes. So of all of that, what role do you think surprised you the most?
Nothing you listed there.
Okay.
So just in this past June, I got to go to Sarasota and do Begin Again Badge. We expanded it to the full, for the full show. And in the process of that, we did talkbacks. So the show went from being a 57-minute show to a full 80-minute production. And in those talkbacks, I'd stood the show up, Begin Again Badge. I had stood it up in Theater Crude last October 25. And when I put it up in Sarasota, I told the people who brought me out that I knew the show had feet. because we'd stood it up before, but I didn't know if the show had legs to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't know until opening night.
Sure.
So I do the show, and we have this talk back. And the talk back is about creative process, about those things. But my show is about my journey through infertility, alcoholism, divorce, dating apps, and then all the other stuff in between. And what ended up happening with the talkbacks, inevitably, is that people kept asking me things like, how did you know you were brave enough? What do you do when those doors of your memory don't reopen? What? And they kept asking me like these things like, how did you handle it? And I kept hearing things like, you should write a book, you should start a podcast, you need a Substack. And I've said every single time I have talked about my alcohol recovery publicly, someone slides into my DMs and they tell me how they're struggling. And so the biggest thing that has surprised me has been how this pain that I've experienced is now being utilized as a gift for other people. I would have never, if you had told me, hey, Cristela, I met a woman after my show, 80 years old, Lana, beautiful, wonderful creature. And she said, she was just like, oh, I saw so much of myself in your show. And she's just talking to me. And she said, I used to play piano. Her daughter's standing there. Her daughter says, no. She didn't just play piano. This woman played Carnegie Hall. She's a concert pianist. And she goes, oh, no, I haven't played in years. Da, da, da. And I'm like, Lana, what are you doing? Like, you're denying the world your gift. Like, you know, do the whole show. A couple of weeks ago, I get a message from her daughter. And I find out that Lana was so inspired after my show. For the next 2 days, she played piano for the next 2 days straight.
Mm.
And that message and that knowledge was as much, if not more, of a gift to me than the applause I heard that night.
Absolutely.
So this most surprising thing for me in my artistry is how my pain can potentially be the catalyst to someone else's healing journey, not just my own.
Yeah.
That is both humbling. It is a driving force in me now. The pain has to have a purpose.
Sure.
It has to go somewhere. Otherwise, it just sits.
Yeah.
But above all, it has been the greatest gift back to me that I could have ever asked for. And one of the things that keeps me sober and keeps me accountable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing that surprises me the most.
That's awesome. And I think beyond that, I think it's seeing you where you are now.
Yep.
Yes, we hear from your show and your talks what you were then,
Right.
what you went through.
Right.
But being able to see you now,
Right.
that gives all of those people that reach out, that gives them the hope that yes, I'm right where she was,
Right.
but I can also get to where she is.
And here's the catch. Like in my show, I talk about it being healing in real time. I am only 3.5 years alcohol sober. This was yesterday. Most stories that talk about the journey talk about it 10 years on.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that. And the reason I didn't want to do that was because I'm very blessed to have an amazing support group of friends. I have no enablers. I have people who will have literally jumped in front of a person who was offering me an alcohol drink, being like, she's sober. And I'm very, very glad for that. But no, I just got a vision of that. And I forgot what I was saying. Oh no, sorry guys.
Oh.
You gotta edit this out probably.
No, it's fine.
This is the real Cristela. Damn it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cuss.
Oh, that's fine.
What was the question? These are the outtakes.
I'm sorry, and you are.
Yeah, sorry, where am I again? Who am I?
So okay, you did. Uh, you decided to take on the running of OKC Improv.
Mm-hmm.
Improv became very instrumental to you.
It did.
What was it like to be the one in charge of something like that?
I was the second person in charge. So there was a team of 4 people. So Clint and Buck Razzle, who were former improv partners of mine, Marcy Fleming and the late great Eric Webb. Shout outs, pouring out for my brother there. They started the company, and then in 2015, one of the brothers had stepped away. The other one, you could tell that he was, you know, and we were at a breaking point, right? We didn't have a lot of people, weren't coming out. We had lost, we'd moved around theaters, right? And I had been a part of the community. I'd been the original first board member, and then I'd stepped back. And some of the community members came to me and said, "Would you consider becoming the artistic director?" And I thought about it for a long time, and I said yes, that I would do that. And then the artistic director at that time stepped back. We immediately lost the venue we were in. At that time, we had like $7,000 in the bank and like 7 people in the house, and boom, we lose our venue.
Right.
So now we're in a scramble, right? Where are we going next? What are we doing? Do we have the money to do this? Do we have the numbers to do this, right? And this is the first time. Now I had produced by this point. I'd already done 2 cabarets, and I had tons of theater experience. But I had not stepped into a leadership position like this. So this was this was, leadership through a fire hose, right? And so immediately set to like finding a new venue, trying to get numbers up. We ended up at Shakespeare in its old iteration. We spent some time there. Then all of a sudden we started working with George and Teresa Adams over at Paramount. And what really ended up happening when we started really taking off was when we moved into the Paramount on Film Row. We were there for about 3.5 years. And their goal was to do a theater where rotating companies, or stage, so rotating companies would go in and out, right? And we would be one of the rotating companies. So back in that days, we used to do runs like a theater. You might have a 4-week run, and we do Friday, Saturdays. And I had been with them since conception. Like, so I remember those days when we were doing just Saturday nights, and it was the wild, wild west. So we get to the Paramount and we do runs. And then all of a sudden, those other theater companies start falling away. And we start picking up more weekends and more weekends. And we made a concerted effort. So when I took over, Sue Ellen Ryman was already on board. And she's fabulous. She was the managing director, and together she and I just really started like rolling up our sleeves and like, calling people and doing this and wheeling and dealing. And so I remember being at Shakespeare, talking on the phone with the Paramount, and in the back negotiating the contract. I had never negotiated a contract before. I was winging it. But I was the one on the phone, and I had to make the call. It worked out. And once we got in there, and then we had an amazing working relationship with them. And we got to pick up weekends and pick up weekends and pick up weekends. And then the ball started rolling. We focused on revamping the education system, and then really doubling down on the quality of shows that went up. And as we started doing that, word got out. And so by the time we left the Paramount, we lost the Paramount space to then eventually end up where they are now in OKC Improv. And before I left, I had to leave because of my mental health. My mental health was really bad. We were in the plaza, so to be with them over a 4-year, during this incredible transition period where we were at the brink of closing our doors, to successfully navigating them into the home that they are still in today, is one of my, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the work that the company that we put together, everybody that worked really hard and that got us into that space. But it was an absolute leadership, learning how to people maneuver. That's one of the biggest things you learn in leadership. It's not even the contracts. It's not what are you going to do. It's how you deal with people.
Yep.
That was the biggest thing I learned is how to handle people, because some people, and especially if you're a woman, I know, it's shocker, they will walk up to you and they will tell you exactly how they think you should conduct business. And if you don't conduct business the way they say you should be conducting business, that is somehow a failure on your part. And so learning how to be that same cheerleader and also being the person who goes, thank you so much for your input. I will take that into consideration, and then walk away and do whatever I need to.
Exactly.
You learn.
Wow. There you have it.
Eh.
So we talked just a minute ago and we said we'd get to that. So let's talk a little bit about the City Cabaret.
Mhm.
You said you had a great group of people come together for this thing, and they took your little idea and just exploded it.
Oh, yes.
So what happened?
Absolutely. This is in 2014, I was almost in another Pollard show in the Heights in 2014 on the final dress. We were supposed to open the next day. I was blinded by stage lights and stepped off of the stage and broke my tibia plateau.
Oh my goodness.
I then had to not walk for 3 months. I'd have major reconstructive surgery on my knee. You can see we'll take a picture of it. We'll put it on your website. And I couldn't walk for 3 months. This is what they call a life-changing injury. So while I was always a large girl, I had great cardio health. I could dance. I could sing. I could do all of those things. So I would still get cast in the occasional musicals and dance and do all that stuff. But even what I had now, I wasn't going to be able to do that with this injury. The tibia plateau fracture is significant. And I thought, well, great. I love to sing. Like, how if I'm not going to get in musicals anymore? I was already restricted. If you get 100 librettos and line them up, and with the exception of South Pacific and In the Heights, you can throw a rock and pretty much hit something that I'm not going to be cast as. It's going to happen that way, right? So I'm already limited in that capacity anyway. So now I can't even dance? What? So I thought, well, I've got to find a way to express this creativity that's, reeling up inside me. So I brought I brought my friend Corey Millah to my house, and I fed her mashed potatoes and meatloaf and corn. And I said, she's a wonderful musical director. And I said, I've got this vision for this New York City style cabaret experience in Oklahoma City, because I feel like Oklahoma City is like the Midwest, the Southern Midwest Chicago. And, we have so much talent here and I want to showcase it. She was like, I'm on board. Let's do it. So we pick a date. We also went to Shakespeare. We'd already had a relationship with them, with the theater, with OKC Improv. And so I piggybacked on that. And I called some people up. We set a date mid-April. And I called up Renee Anderson and Charlie Minot, Scott Hines, Courtney Krause, Emily Etherton. So I had this cast of people. I'm talking to Corey. I'm thinking in my mind, we're having a keyboard and a microphone. Like, that's it. That's all I've envisioned, right? Is very basic.
Yeah.
And so we're planning and prepping, and I'm building stuff. It's all the machine. And I tell my friend Corey, and I'm like, hey, so what's going on? This is what's going on in our world. What's going on in your world? And she's like, I am writing the bass line and the drums for the opening number. And I went, what do you mean bass line and drums for the opening number? I was like, hey, I just want to tell you, I got $200 in our account, and I don't know how I'm going to pay a drummer and a bassist. And she goes, oh, don't even worry about that. She's like, these are friends of mine. They love the idea. They want to help grow this idea. And so you're just going to pay them whatever we can afford to pay them. And they're cool with that. And I was like, okay, go ahead on. So now I've gone from a keyboard to a 3-piece. And so kaboom. So we're moving into the theater. And we're loading in, and I'm just expecting people to show up. We're going to unload stuff. And my friend Scott Hines is also a tech person, and he starts unloading risers and lights and gets on ladders. And I'm like, Scott, what are you doing? What is, I didn't, and he's like, I'm setting up for the show. And I was like, Scott, you didn't have to do all this. And he looks me dead in the eye and says, no, if we're doing this all the way. And tears welled up in my eyes.
Of course.
And the two things I loved about it was that he saw more in my vision than I saw for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we. And that is the beautiful thing about this community.
Yeah.
It was the first show. And I called him and said, Scott, will you do this? I called everybody. And it was we from day one. It was we. Even though it was my idea and Corey's, actually, no, it's my idea. I just roped everybody in and said, I'll feed you pizza and give you bourbon and pay you whatever the door, whatever I cover after cost. I'm not looking to make money.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, like, I talk about the community here and the contributions of these beautiful artists. I had my idea for the cabaret was a friggin' senior recital,
Yeah.
and my friend's vision for the cabaret was, 54 below.
Yeah.
That's and that's the thing. And so when we open our arms up with our dreams and let people in, that's when it grows. That's the beauty.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the collaboration.
Exactly.
My vision may be limited in the scope of what we bring together.
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
you're only as limited as to what you put the cap on it.
Right.
And so I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
So you've done you kicked off your show last year at
Mhm.
the Fringe Festival and now taking it across the country.
Yeah, one place across the country. It's still across. I still drove across the country.
But you've also got into doing facilitation
Mhm.
and keynote speaking and stuff like that. How did that come about?
So when I started doing improv and I took over as OKC Improv, I started to really see, as I began to take on like the things as improv began to change my life, alongside my leadership journey of becoming, the artistic director and trying to shape this community, and then of course the cabaret. Sorry, my brain schismed again. Can we start that over? Can you ask me that one more time?
Sure.
I'm so sorry.
Lost it. So the facilitation.
Oh, the facilitation. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So with facilitating, when I was doing OKC Improv and I was growing as a leader there, I was also expanding how I viewed improv just in my everyday life. And what I was finding were there were lots of Venn diagrams where things were overlapping.
Yeah.
In my private, like professional life, I was getting opportunities to kind of do some like student workshops and things here and there. And I thought, I wonder, there's an advising conference. There's a state one called Okada. And I thought, I wonder if I could, take some of this improv stuff and build something for the world of academic advising and then present it to the advisors and see what happens. So my first workshop was for them. I called it Leadership Through Laughter. And we just talked about basic key components of leadership, stuff that I had been learning like with on-the-job training at OKC Improv and my training experience. And it ended up being this great workshop and everybody loved it. And I thought, well, there's something here. And so I expanded the workshop. I started building new workshops. And over the last 15 years, I've just been doing them sporadically, from anything from connection and listening and being present to actual key components of leadership and those things. Also, I do one called Self-Compassion in a Self-Care World that's based in my recovery process, and finding out what the theory behind that is that if you want to make any true first step that is truly change, lasting change, you first have to ask yourself, like, what is it that you need? And that if we look at self-care versus self-compassion is an idea. Self-care is an industry. And that industry made over $5 billion last year.
Mm.
And an industry that makes that much money has no real incentive of getting you well.
True.
So as like everything that's kind of happened to me personally, I started kind of seeing how it would fall out to other things, and I just started presenting those. Because of that, I got the opportunity to go and do a keynote this past April with the Oklahoma Women in Higher Education um, conference at their spring conference, and I just celebrated women in education and talked about how important it is what we do. And I mixed improv workshops, and I give context to conceptual ideas. So if a boss says, "I'm very supportive of my employees. They know I have their back," and and I'm like, "Okay, great. Let's test that theory." So when we do an improv exercise that is directly related to support, that makes everybody a little bit vulnerable and then supported. So then when I do that exercise and I go back and I do all these little comparisons and I go, "Did you feel that? Did you see what happened? How the energy in the room changed when people feel supported? Now, are you bringing that same kind of energy into your break room?"
Hmm.
Because that's support. Are you supporting your people like that? Because it's real easy to say you support people, right? But that needs context. Otherwise, it's just vapor, right? So that kind of started happening. Um, and as that grew, I became really excited about where that can go. And now as this other part of my journey begins, I feel like I can take all that facilitation, and I'm also an academic life coach. And so it was like powerful questions and things like that, and hopefully utilize this for this, what I hope is my next chapter, which is taking the show and creating this ecosystem to have people uh, who will take their first step, who will see this. Because, I talk about healing in real time. This just happened, and it's messy. And people kept saying, "Oh, you're an inspiration. You're so inspirational." And that made me uncomfortable because it's a double-edged sword. Sure, do you want to be inspirational? I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But I also don't want you to think I'm inspirational, because that's aspirational othering to me. And it seems so far away. And that my fear is that if you think it's for somebody else and not for you, if it's inspirational. Whereas if it's just something that anybody can do, look at me, I'm messy and I'm doing it, and you can do it because I'm no better than you. I'm not more exceptional than you. And I'm out here getting dirty. Come on with me. It's okay. Let's go. And that's what I want the show to be. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing now. That's where the facilitation is for me in the future.
So speaking of this new chapter
Mhm.
that you're talking about, let's talk about what you've got going on right now. Um, so you're taking the show around. Are you using the show at other locations? Or
So the Lifeline production show, the 80-minute show, the hope and goal is that we can co-produce with other theaters around the country to get the 80-minute version up. It is a show in a suitcase. It's not even that, it's a show in a backpack. It's all projection, a cube, a microphone. Um, and it is a powerful piece of theater. I know that sounds conceited, but I have people's reactions as the receipts.
testimonies are a great thing.
I have them. I have a whole reel of reaction that I watch occasionally just to remind myself that when I get tired and I think, can I do this? The reaction,
Yeah.
just to be able to have that and look at it and go, it is worth it.
Yeah.
Keep going. Um, so yeah.
What else do you have going on?
Right now, my biggest thing is just work. Unfortunately, fortunately, I'm very glad to be employed. My hope and goal is to apply for some more fringe festivals coming up. I have kind of in the show opened a new door to some artistry that I would really like to get involved in. And I would really very much like to do more direct storytelling, like, David Sedaris kind of moth kind of stuff. I would really like to get more into that comic storytelling, because I've done stand up. I'm not a stand up. I'm a storyteller. I'm a comic storyteller. But the other thing I really want to do is spoken word.
Hmm.
I have been writing more poetry. I wrote a poem that's in my piece, that in my In Begin Again badge. And since then, I've had some dating app experiences that have led me to doing more spoken word.
Okay.
And so right now, I don't have any things that are burning right now, but I kind of am glad, because it's giving me enough oxygen to to see where I need to take my next step. Because for me, I know I don't want to wait. Like I want to just like run towards, you know,
all right.
right. But I only have so much bandwidth, unless I win the lottery, then, I'll no holds barred. Like we're just going for it. But right now it's like, okay, what's the next step? So like right now I have signed up for a Substack, but I haven't written an article. And I signed up for Wix, but I haven't published my website. So there's just teeny tiny little steps
Yeah.
towards that ultimate goal. And I'm just giving myself a little oxygen, because Begin Again Badge has been my life for a year.
Yeah.
And it will continue to be my life, hopefully, in some capacity. So I'm just creating a little space for myself to recenter and see what else is out there. So I am available if anybody wants to cast a not as round, short brown girl. I have lost 100 pounds in the last 2 years as I've gone through trauma recovery and things like that. It's part of the journey. So
Yeah, you've accomplished quite a bit. You again, you talked about your weight loss, overcoming alcoholism or
recovering
from alcoholism. I don't know for
For
those
me,
people
I don't say. Some people do. There's some literature that says you can like
right.
overcome. I choose recovery.
I don't know that I always buy into the adage once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic either.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think there's somewhere in between.
I think I don't like once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, because I think it makes people think that you're always an active alcoholic.
Right.
For me, and this is only mine, and I'm not telling anybody how to recover. For me, saying I'm an alcoholic in recovery and I will always be recovering keeps me accountable.
Yeah.
So to me, it feels forward moving as opposed to I'm recovered, which feels relaxed back. And for me, I've got to be forward.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I've spent some time in the ministry, and one thing that I talked about a lot, if you look at the way what it describes in the ministry about the armor, everything is in the front. But the problem, and what I used to tell people, is that the enemy always attacks right after our greatest successes, not after, or not when we're in the midst of our worst moment.
Right.
Because what happens when you talk about a soldier, what happens after the battle that you've just won? They put the shield down, they put the sword away, and then that's when the attack comes.
Yeah. I mean, when I had to step back from OKC Improv, we had just moved into theater. We had just hosted our first improv festival, and the alcoholism was ravaging me, the depression, the trauma, everything building up. I couldn't see myself anymore. I was an empty shell of a human who was just functioning. And so, so here I am. I had worked for 4 years straight to get us to this point, and I was lost in it and had to go, this is it. This is the end. I will die if not. And I almost did, but I'm here now. So let's have fun.
Yeah. So now you're in a spot where you're in a good spot.
Very great spot.
You're not having to fight the fight.
Right.
You crossed the hurdle of your weight loss journey. You're in a better place mentally.
Yep.
So now you're in a creative mindset.
Yes.
What does the future look like?
For me personally, I would very much love to be able to take the Lifeline show that I wrote, the 80-minute version, and co-produce nationally, so that it begins that conversation of healing and what that looks like, and taking that first step, that the catalyst to healing. That's what I'm interested in, is what does it take to have a person take the first step in the journey? That's where my interest lies. I'm not a therapist. I can't help you further on, right? The only thing I can do is that. So for me, that's a huge goal. I do have some more little creative ideas, like some other like original shows that are not autobiographical. They are autobiographically inspired, because the Bible of comedy is truth in comedy, not made up crap in comedy. So literally, I just kind of pull from my life, write it, and put it on stage, and it writes itself. So I've got a couple more ideas for evergreen shows that can be anybody, to do that. So I'm hoping to do that more. I want to write more and do more spoken word. I would love to be in a situation where I can work remotely and then travel and do different things around. So freedom is what my next creative chapter looks like. Artistic freedom to create for myself and for others if I so choose.
Oh, that's great. I think I love that. I love that. So as we start to wrap up our time together, one of the things that I like to do, we've hit some tender subjects, we've hit some hard hitting subjects that you carry around with you as your armor, and you use those as great storytelling tools, and that's great. We like to end on a very light note.
Love it.
A very fun note.
Yes.
I have what we call our curtain call curveballs.
Okay.
So these are designed to they're off the wall, maybe about theater, may not, but they're designed to be the first thing off the top of your head. So we're just going to just roll right through this. We can do this speed round, or we can put some thought into it, however you want to do it. But the first thing that pops into your head.
Love it.
Can you remember what was the first line that you ever remember performing on stage?
How many miles do we still have to go on this journey? How many miles until we reach Bethlehem? 4th grade, Colonial Baptist Church, Clay and Virgin Mary from the back of the house.
Wow. And how apropos does it still apply?
I mean.
Excellent. Okay. What is your favorite go-to comfort snack?
Whoo! Mixed nuts. Deluxe mixed nuts.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm so bougie.
Okay.
So bougie. Pecans and cashews, sweetie.
What's the best costume piece that you've ever worn?
Ooh. There are so many good ones, but the first one that really pops up to me was when I was in Rocky. The incredibly talented, amazing, shout out Jeffrey Meeks, who put me in a baby doll costume. It was a light ballerina pink with white polka dots, puff sleeves, thing with a wig, blonde wig, and face makeup. It was the most amazing costume. And the thing, when I spun around and I did the time warp and we had to spin, the whole skirt would go all the way parallel to the floor. It was amazing. It took 30 minutes to get into, but it was amazing.
Oh, cool. Okay. If you woke up tomorrow with a seemingly useless superpower, what would it be?
My seemingly useless superpower would most likely be able to meal prep in a snap. That would be what I would do.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can feel that one.
Yeah.
If you could steal any role from someone else's resume, what would you grab?
I'm going to go with Donna Murphy in her origination of Fosca, Passion, Sondheim. Yes, yeah.
All right. Like it. If theater vanished tomorrow, what job would you choose just for fun?
Ooh, what would I choose just for fun? Honestly, I would choose something that's like a travel blogger, going around and doing travel blogs and restaurant and things like that. I really miss the boat with HGTV and the Travel Channel and stuff. So that's what I would do. I would absolutely.
I really want to know how you get into that.
Oh, please. Pick me.
I'm like, yeah. So, okay. What is your go-to song, your go-to hype song before a performance?
My go-to hype song?
Yeah, what do you use to get in the zone?
Well, you know what? For this show, for Begin Again Badge, I listened to a couple of songs. But the biggest thing that drives me with this show that really changed something was a song called Options by Cameron Whitcomb. And the chorus is, I can't, but I won't pull that bottle off the shelf.
Oh.
It helps me cope knowing I could be that version of myself, could disappear for a week, for a month, for a year, wake up at home or in a coffin. It's nice to know I've got options.
Oh.
And he sings it in a way that feels like recovery. And so that song, I listen to that song and man, it lights me up and pushes me forward.
Wow. That's powerful. I like that. So what is the vibe of your current phone wallpaper?
Family. It's me and my baby cousin. So it brings me joy when it lights up.
There
It's
you
a fam
go.
fam.
There you go. Okay, if you could bring back one character that you've played for one performance, who would it be?
Oh, that's hard. That's
You fall in love with
so
all of it, right?
hard. I know all of them. There was some that I was like, see you later, alligator.
Yeah. Glad that one was.
Oh, wow. I'm vacillating between two ghost-like characters, actually.
Okay.
Helen from Fat Pig and Susan from Title of the Show. Helen, because I'm going to make a decision, but Helen, because for the first time, Neil LaBute wrote a show, and it was heartbreaking, but he wrote a character that actually reflected me.
Oh,
a
yeah.
funny, vivacious woman who was sexy. And I didn't act in that play. I just went up and was Cristela, which I love that. Susan is a wackadoo thing and so much fun, but I think I'm gonna go with Susan because she's just so fun and quirky. So if I could bring back Susan from Title of the Show for one night, we'd have some fun.
Okay, there you go.
Mhm.
And because you always think about when you're done with that role, man, I should have done this.
Oh, absolutely.
What if I did, but now you don't have a chance anymore. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I call them the shoulda Sundays.
Oh.
Yeah, I did improv. We used to only do Friday night. I mean, Saturday nights. I told everybody I woke up with the shoulda Sundays. I should have done this and I should have done that. Right. And I remember when I got to that improv journey, when I remember I thought I've arrived when I woke up on a Sunday, but it didn't hit me till Tuesday that I didn't wake up that Sunday with the shouldas. It wasn't a shoulda Sunday. And I thought, oh my God, I had a show where I finally didn't regret the choices I made. Or if I did, it was passing long enough for me to move on with my life. So never be afraid of failure.
So I finally found some peace.
Finally peace, yes.
Okay, last one. If you had to describe yourself in one word, don't think about it, just one word, right off the top of your head, what would it be?
Tenacious.
Awesome. Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. I love it. Love it. Cristela, thank you.
Thank you.
For giving your time. Thank you for telling your story.
Thank you.
Not just here, but every place that you take your show, for being that inspiration for those people that see you perform, listen to you speak, all of that. Thank you for that. This world needs more light like that.
Thank you.
But more importantly, that you do it with such grace and such humor. That's the important thing. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here with us and sharing a little bit of time with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. For everybody else listening at home, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time as well. Whether you're listening to us in the car, at home, at work, whatever, thank you for giving just a little bit of your time to Oklahoma On Stage. We appreciate all that you do. You can follow us again, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the channels. You can listen to us, download us, all of that. You can find all of our episodes on our website, oklahomaonstage.org. And we'd like to hear any of your comments or questions at oklahomaonstage@gmail.com. Again, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for supporting us through all of this. But more importantly, above all else, what we say every time, continue to support the arts.